We're very happy to have been privileged with conducting this preparation for the morning lesson for all the world's Clee. We are two tense, gathered together unity, 23 in vulgar, and in this preparation was done by listening to morning lessons, evening lessons, getting together. You know it's difficult to come to a unanimous decision in one turn. Even so, we thought that in 2 turns it'll be impossible, but through the efforts of everyone, it all connected like one big puzzle. So let's begin preparing for our meeting with the teacher, and let's read from Article 12. What are work in the way of the Creator? Prior to learning Torah, a person should examine the reason for which he's learning Torah, for any act needs to have some purpose that causes him to do the act. It is, as our sages said, a prayer without an aim is as a body without a soul. For this reason, before he comes to learn Torah, he must prepare the intention. Again, prior to learning Torah, a person should examine the reason for which he's learning Torah, for any act needs to have some purpose that causes him to do the act. It says our sages said a prayer without an aim is as a body without a soul. For this reason, before he comes to learn Torah, he must prepare the intention. Active workshop. Let's build a common intention towards the lesson. Again, let's build a common intention towards the lesson. We want to be similar to the Creator. We come here to undergo change, to disconnect from ourselves gradually, every day to feel the other. So that is our intention, to be in the friends, to ask for the friends. We're here to reveal the quality of bestow to the world through the friends. That we want the light to influence us, change our qualities so that we will be able to give contentment to the Creator, to do His will, to succeed in what we came here for. We have an opportunity now to come to the lesson with a very unique intention, to be as one man in one heart, to draw the light, to bring Him contentment from this action where we are truly aiming ourselves with prayer mutually to be as one man and one heart. Let's try to think together about what will be good for the Creator, what will give Him contentment from us, and how together we can practice what the Kabbalists teach us, and how to be assisted by the light, together the reforming light in the texts that can help us achieve a greater connection between us. This is the time and place to draw the light that is so important to us, to correct and shape and direct the heart, so we can resemble the Creator, so we can correct the pieces, the shattered connection between us, so we can prepare the right Kli to receive from the Creator and from our teachers what they want to give to us. Yes, we would like to attain the true vessel, which is the external vessel, outside of one's skin, as we say, but simply a person being affiliated with this coming here, sitting down, receiving some kind of influence. I think that is a great thing already. So our intention is to be a part of what our love began, and to take part in this process. This vessel that we get from the friends is such a special thing, because it's everyone's unique yearning for the Creator, and everyone has a different one. This is a necessary and sufficient condition to reach the goal. So let's ask for this special mission right now, so that we all feel that we're one soul, asking for the friends and for everyone to share this intention. Now, as we enter the lesson, silent workshop, am I willing to ask on behalf of the friends for the reforming light throughout the entire lesson? Again, am I willing to ask on behalf of the friends for the reforming light throughout the entire lesson? Shalom. Hello. The first part of the lesson, we will watch a recorded lesson from the 13th of June 2002. The second lesson from a series of 2 lessons on the article, what is the substance of slander and against whom is it? What is the substance of slander and against whom is it? Which today we will start reading from the words. It turns out that while the immensity of the pleasure in Torah and so forth, it turns out that while the immensity of the pleasure in Torah and commandments is revealed, a person cannot say, I am doing this commandment because it is the Creator's will, meaning that he wants to give pleasure to the Creator by keeping His commandments. After all, without the Creator's commandment, he would still keep the Torah and commandments because of self-love, and not because he wants to give to the Creator. This is the reason for the placement of the restriction and the concealment on the Torah and commandments, and this is why the whole world chases corporeal pleasures while having no energy for the pleasures in Torah and commandments, because the pleasure is not revealed for the above-mentioned reason. It therefore follows that regarding faith we must assume the importance there is in Torah and commandments and, in general, believe in the Creator that He watches over the creatures. This means that one cannot say that he is not keeping Torah and commandments because he does not feel the Creator's guidance, how He gives abundance to the creatures, since here too he must believe even though he does not feel it. This is so because if he felt that the Creator's guidance is benevolent, there would be no question of faith there anymore. But why did the Creator make it so we would serve Him with faith? Would it not have been better if we could serve in a state of knowing? The answer is, as Balasam said, that one shouldn't think that the fact that the Creator wants us to serve Him with faith is because He cannot shine to us in the form of knowing. Rather, the Creator knows that faith is a more successful way for us to reach the goal called adhesion with the Creator, which is equivalence of form. By that we will have the power to receive the good, while being without the bread of shame, meaning without shame. This is so because the only reason we will want to receive delight and pleasure from the Creator is that we will know that the Creator will derive pleasure from it, and since we wish to bestow upon the Creator, we wish to receive delight and pleasure from Him. Thus we see that the main work we must do to achieve the purpose for which the world was created, to do good to His creations, is to qualify ourselves to acquire vessels of bestow. This is the correction for making the king's gift complete, so they will feel no shame upon the reception of the pleasures, and all the evil in us removes us from the good that we are destined to receive. And we were given the remedy of Torah and commandments so as to achieve those vessels. This is the meaning of what our sages said. Quote, the Creator says, I have created the evil inclination. I have created for it the Torah, the spice of Torah, by which he will lose all the sparks of self-love within him and will be rewarded with this desired being only to bestow contentment upon his Maker. End quote. In the essay, The Giving of the Torah, he says, quote, there are two parts in the Torah. 1. Commandments between man and God. 2 commandments between man, and both aim for the same thing, to bring the creature to the final goal of adhesion with the Creator. Furthermore, even the practical side in both of them is really one and the same. Toward those who keep Torah and commandments, there is no difference between the two parts of the Torah even on the practical side. This is because before one accomplishes it, one is compelled to feel any act of bestow either towards another person or towards the Creator as emptiness beyond conception. And since this is the case, it is reasonable to think that the part of the Torah that deals with man's relationship with his friend is better capable of bringing one to the desired goal. This is because the work in the commandments between man and God is fixed and specific, and there are none who demand it, and one becomes easily accustomed to it, and everything that is done out of habit is no longer beneficial. However, the commandments between man and man are changing and irregular, and demands surround him wherever it may turn. Hence, their cure is much more certain and their aim is closer. End quote. Now, we understand why, said about the verse, love thy friend as thyself, that it is the great rule of the Torah. It is because the important thing is to be rewarded with adhesion with the Creator, which is called a vessel of bestow, meaning equivalence of form. This is why the remedy of Torah and commandments was given, so that through it we will be able to exit self-love and reach love of others, as stage 1 is the love between a person and his friend, and then we can achieve the love of the Creator. Now we can understand what we asked above. Why, when the convert came to hell and told him, teach me the whole of the Torah while I'm standing on one leg, hell did not reply to him in the holy tongue, as he asked, teach me the whole of the Torah while I'm standing on one leg, but replied to him in the language of translation Aramaic, that which you hate, do not do unto your friend. The translation of love thy friend as thyself. And there's more to understand, since in the Torah it is written, love thy friend as thyself, which is a positive mitzvah. While he replied to the convert in a negative tongue, do not do sins, he told him that which you hate do not do unto your friend. According to what he explains about the importance of the mitzvah, love thy friend as thyself, in his explanation of the words of Rab, who said that love thy friend as thyself is the great rule of the Torah, that specifically this mitzvah has the power to bring one to the remedy for reaching the love of the Creator. For this reason, when the convert came to hell and told him, "Teach me the whole of the Torah while I'm standing on one leg," he wished to tell him the rule of thy friend as thyself, as it is written in the Torah. However, he wished to explain to him the gravity, the grave iniquity called slander, which is even graver than the mitzvah, love thy friend as thyself. The mitzvah love of thy friend as thyself gives one the power to overcome and exit self-love. By exiting self-love, he can achieve the love of the Creator. It follows that if he does not engage in the mitzvah, love thy friend as thyself, he is in a state of sit and do nothing. He did not progress in coming out of the domination of self-love, but did not progress either. In other words, although he did not give love to others, he also did not relapse and did nothing to evoke hatred of others. Yet if he slanders his friends by that he relapses, not only does he not engage in love of others, he does the opposite, engages in actions that cause hatred of others by slandering his friend. Naturally, one does not slander one he loves, for it separates the hearts. Therefore, we do not wish to slander one that we love so as not to spoil the love between us, since slander inflicts hatred. It therefore follows that the severity of the iniquity of slander is that love of others yields love of the Creator, and hatred of others yields hatred of the Creator, and there's nothing worse in the world than that which yields hatred of the Creator. But when a person sins with other transgressions and cannot overcome his will to receive, because he is immersed in self-love, it still does not make him hate to the Creator. This is why it is written about the rest of their transgressions, "I am the Lord who dwells with them in the midst of their impurity." But in regards to slander, by this action he becomes hateful of the Creator, as it is the very opposite act of love of others. Now we can understand the words of Ronan in the name of Raon. Anyone who slanders it is as though he denies the tenet. Can it be that slander would make one deny the tenet? However, since it causes him to hate the Creator, he denies the very purpose of creation to do good. And we see that one who does good to another and gives him more delight and pleasure each time certainly loves him. But when a person slanders, it makes him hate the Creator. Thus this person denies the very purpose of creation to do good. Now we can also understand what we asked about what said in the name of Mr. Quote, anyone who slanders the Creator says, "Here and I cannot dwell in the world." End quote. Is it possible that slander could cause the Creator not to dwell in the world with him? As we said above, one who slanders becomes hateful of the Creator. As in corporality, a person can be in a house with many people and yet be indifferent to whether they are good people or not. But when he sees his hater is there, he immediately runs away from there, for he cannot be in a single room with a hater. Similarly, we say that one who becomes hateful of the Creator cannot be with him in the world. But we could ask, but one who steals something from his friend also causes his friend to hate, since when the one from whom it was stolen finds out that he stole, he will see that he is his hater. Or we could say that even if he never knows who stole from him, the thief himself, instead of engaging in love of friends, love of others, is engaged in an opposite act, hatred of others, by which he becomes more immersed in self-love. And yet they do not say that stealing is as bad as slander. Also, it means that robbing is not as grave as a slander too. The answer should be that one who engages in stealing or robbing does not rob or steal because of hatred. The reason is that he has love for money or for important artifacts, and this is why he steals or robs, and not because of hate, God forbid. But with slander, it is not because of some fancy, but only out of hatred. It is as said, why is it written, if the serpent bites without whispering, there is no advantage to the one with the tongue. In the future, all the animals will come to the serpent and tell him, the lion preys and eats, a wolf preys and eats, but you, what pleasure have you? He tells them, and what is the advantage of the one with the tongue? End quote. And Rashi interprets a lion preys and eats to mean that all who harm people derive pleasure. The lion preys and eats. He eats of what is alive, and if a wolf preys, it kills first and then eats. It has pleasure. But you, what is your pleasure in biting people? The serpent replied, and what is the advantage of the one with the tongue? One who slanders. What joy does he have? Similarly, when I bite, I get no pleasure. End quote. With the above said, we can see that there is a difference between harming people because one derives pleasure, such as the lion, and the wolf, who have no desire to harm because they hate people, but because of desire, since they take pleasure in people. Thus, the reason why they harm others is only out of desire. This is not so with slander. One does not receive any reward for it, but it is an act that causes hatred of people. And according to the rule, love thy friend as thyself, or from the love of man, one comes to the love of the Creator. It follows that from hatred of people, one can come to hatred of the Creator. Similarly, we find these words, quote, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do them." It did not say that do, but that do them. They who do lishma for her sake, and not they who do lishma not for her sake. And anyone who does lish, it is better for him not to have been born. In the Tut, he asks, and if the sir should say Rod said Ra, said one should always engage in commandments even in lishma, for out of flishma he will come to lishma. We should say here we are dealing with one who is learning only in order to annoy his friends, and there it was said about one who is learning in order to be respected. We should understand the answer of the Tut when he says that we should distinguish between lishma in order to annoy and lishma in order to be respected, meaning to call him a rabbi and so on. We should understand it according to the rule that Rabbarkar said, love thy friend as thyself, is the great rule of the Torah. By what he explains in the essay, the giving of the Torah, it is because through this mitzvah he will acquire love of others, and from this he will later come to love of the Creator. It therefore follows that one should try to exit self-love, and then he will be able to engage in Torah and meaning in order to bestow, and not for his own benefit. This is done by keeping. Thus, as long as he does not exit self-love, he cannot engage in. And although he engages in self-love, there is power in keeping, in order to exit self-love, and from that to subsequently come to love of the Creator, at which time he will do everything in order to bestow. Achieving is possible only when he engages. Invited. That is, he is learning, but he still cannot work for the sake of others, since he hasn't acquired the quality of love of others. Hence, engagement in mitzvot will help him achieve the quality of love of others. When he learns in order to annoy, which is an opposite act from the love of others, keeping for the hatred of others in order to annoy. How can two opposites be in the same carrier? Meaning, it is said that the Torah assists in achieving love of others when one performs an act of bestow. Although the intention is to receive a prerogative, the Torah assists him in toward the intention of obtaining the desire to bestow as well. But here he engages in the very opposite, in hatred of others. How can this cause love of others? It is as we said about the distinction between a thief and a robber and a slanderer. Thieves and robbers love money, gold, and other important things. They have no personal dealings with the individual himself. In other words, thieves and robbers have no thought or consideration or of the person himself, but their thoughts are focused on where they can get more money more easily and with greater difficulty for the police to expose them as the thieves or robbers, but they never think of the person himself. With slander, however, one has no consideration of the act itself when he slanders. Rather, his only thought is to humiliate his friend in the eyes of people. Thus, the only thought is of was one of hatred. It is a rule that one does not slander one he loves. Hence, it is specifically slander that causes hatred of others, which subsequently leads to hatred of the Creator. For this reason, slander is a very grave iniquity which actually brings destruction of the world. And now we will explain the measure of slander, how and how much is considered slander. Whether a word or a sentence that is said about one's friend is already considered slander. We find this measure in hell's answer, who said to the convert, "That which you hate do not do unto your friend." End quote. This means that with any words that ye want to say about your friends, observe and consider if you would hate it if this was said about you. In other words, if you would derive no pleasure from these words, do not do unto your friend. Thus, when one wishes to say something about one's friend, he should immediately think, if this were said about me, would I hate that word? Do not do unto your friend, as Hill said to the convert. From here we should learn the measure of slander that is forbidden to utter. And with the above said, we can understand why Hill spoke to the convert in the language of translation and not in the holy tongue in Hebrew, just as the convert who told him in Hebrew, "Teach me the whole of the Torah while I stand on one leg." Instead, he spoke in the language of translation, meaning that what he told him was that which you hate, do not do unto your friend in Aramaic, is the translation of love thy friend as thyself in Hebrew. First, we should understand what the language of translation implies to us. The said, quote, "And the Lord God caused a deep sleep." His translation in Gematria, sleep is translation, and it is considered a posterior. End quote. This means that the holy tongue Hebrew is called panim anterior, and the translation Aramaic is called awim posterior. Anterior or face means something that illuminates or something whole. A back. Posterior means something that is not illuminating or is incomplete. In the holy tongue, which is called panim, it says, "Love thy friend as thyself," which is wholeness, since through love of man one achieves the love of the Creator, which is the completion of the goal. For one should achieve adhesion, as it is written, and to cleave unto him. But the translation of "love thy friend as thyself," that he told him, quote, "That which you hate do not do unto your friend," end quote. We should say that it relates to slander, which is about negation. That slander is forbidden because it brings hatred, and from this one might come to hatred of the Creator. God forbid. However, this is still not considered wholeness, because by not slandering, one still does not achieve love of others, and from love of others he will reach wholeness called adhesion with the Creator. However, this is why slander is worse, since not only does he not engage in love of others, he does the opposite, engages in hatred of others. For this reason, when teaching the general public to begin the work, they are first taught how to not spoil and harm the public. This is called, "Thou shalt not do," otherwise you are harming the public by doing things to harm. This is why he said to the convert who came to him only the translation of "love thy friend as thyself," because it is more harmful when slandering, for it causes hatred, which is the opposite of love of others. And 2, because it is easier to keep, for this is only in sit and do not do, but love thy friend is rise up and do, when one should take action to sustain the love of friends. However, afterwards there are exceptions, people who each wish to be a servant of the Creator personally. A person is told that the matter of "love thy friend," which is the rule that Rab Barker said, as above mentioned, that love of others can bring him to achieve love of the Creator, is the main goal. That one will have vessels of bestow, and that in these vessels he will be able to receive delight and pleasure, which is the purpose of creation, to do good to his creation. 2 methods in education extend from this one, focusing the learning on not slandering, because this is the worst iniquity, focusing the education on love their friend, since this will bring man to love others, and from love of others he will come to love the Creator, and from love of the Creator he can then receive the purpose of creation, to do good to his creations. This is because he will already have suitable vessels for receiving the upper abundance, as he will have vessels of bestow which he has obtained by love of others, and then there will be no room for slander. Concerning slander, the Zohar says that the serpent slandering to the woman caused death to the world. It says there that the sword that consumes everything is ready for anyone with a sword in his tan, meaning who slanders. And the Zohar concludes, as it is written, "This will be the law of the leper. As for afflictions come for slander, it follows that he began with death and ended with afflictions," which means that only afflictions come and not death. Certainly, there are explanations for the literal meaning, but in the work, we should interpret that afflictions and death are one and the same. In other words, the purpose of the work is to achieve with the Creator, to adhere to the life of lives. By this, we will have suitable vessels for reception of the delight and pleasure that is found in the purpose of creation to do good to his creations. Through slander, he becomes a hater of the Creator, and there is no greater separation than this. Certainly by that he becomes separated from the life of lives, it follows that where he should have received delight and pleasure from the Creator, he receives the opposite. In other words, instead of pleasure, it becomes affliction. This is the meaning that through slander, afflictions come instead of pleasures. This is the meaning of the wicked in their lives are called dead. Since they are separated from the life of lives, it follows that in the work death and afflictions are the same. In other words, if one adheres to the life of lives, he receives abundance from him, and if it is to the contrary and he becomes separated from him, then he is full of afflictions where he should have been filled with pleasures. With the above said, we can interpret what they said in the West. They say the talk of a third kills three. It kills the one who tells the one who receives and the one about whom it is said. We know the words of our sages, the Torah. Israel and the Creator are one. It means, as explained in the book A Sage Root, that Israel is one who wishes to adhere to the Creator. He achieves this through the 613 mitzvot of the Torah, at which time he is rewarded with the Torah, which is the names of the Creator, and everything becomes one. It turns out that one who slanders causes the killing of three. 1. The one who tells. 2. The one who receives. 3. The one about whom it is said. However, between man and the Creator, there is also the matter of slander. As mentioned concerning the Torah, Israel and the Creator are one. When a person comes and looks in the Torah, he sees all those good things that the Creator has promised us in keeping the Torah. For example, it is written, quote, "For this is your life," end quote. And it is also written, quote, "They are more desirable than gold, yes, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the drippings of the honeycomb," end quote, and other such verses. If a person is not rewarded in it and does not feel it, this is called slandering the Creator. God forbid. It follows that 3 discernments should be made here. 1. The slanderer. 2. The Torah. 3. The Creator. When a person looks in the Torah, if he is not rewarded, he does not see the delight and pleasure clothed in the Holy Torah, and stops learning the Torah because he says he found no meaning in it. Thus, in speaking of the Torah, he is slandering the Creator. It follows that he blemishes 3 things: the Torah, Israel, and the Creator, where one should exert to make the unification of our one, that they will all shine, meaning that the discernment of Israel will obtain the unification, that the whole Torah is the names of the Creator. He causes separation in that through slander, a person must believe above reason that what the Torah promises us is true, and the only fault is in us, that we are still unfit to receive the delight and pleasure, called the hidden light, or the flavors of Torah and commandments, as it is written in the Zohar, that the whole Torah is the names of the Creator. To achieve this, we need vessels of bestow to have equivalence of form between the light and the vessel. Achieving vessels of bestow is done by love of friends. It is, as Sas said, "Love thy friend as thyself" is the great rule of the Torah, for through it we achieve love of others, and through love of others, we arrive at love of the Creator and the love of the Torah. For the Torah is called a gift, and gifts are given to loved ones. The opposite of this is slander, which causes hatred of people and hatred of the Creator, as we said above. Now we can understand what our sages said about slander. The talk of a third kills 3. It kills the one who tells, the one who receives, and the one about whom it is said. Dashi interprets that out of hatred they provoke one another and kill each other. We can understand that this applies between man and man. But how does this apply between man and the Creator? When a person looks in the Torah and tells the Torah that he does not see or feel the delight and pleasure that the Creator said that he is giving to the people of Israel, he is slandering the Creator. There are 3 things here. the telling person, the receiver, meaning the Torah, and the one of whom it is said, meaning the Creator. Since when a person engages in love of others, he obtains the love of the Creator and the love of Torah. In that state the Creator imparts upon him life. As it is written, for with you is the source of life. This is from the side of adhesion. As it is written, and you who cleave. In that state one is rewarded with the law of life. But through slander, the life from the Creator which he should have received is withheld from him. Thus one, the life from the Torah, where he should have sensed the Torah of life, is withheld from him. 2. He himself becomes lifeless, which is considered that he is killed. And 3. Life stops in 3 places, and through love of others, life flows from 2 places, and he is the receiver of the gift of the life rather. Let's now continue to the lesson from the 13th of June 2002. We read an article from the rungs of the latter. What is the substance of slander, and against whom is it? The fact that we think, and this is how it's customary in this world, that slander means that one doesn't speak negatively about another, and people will kind of be so, pretty people towards each other, that each one will check before he opens his mouth. Today there's entire encyclopedias. If a person before he needs to turn to someone, he needs to look at the book of laws of slander, and in what way should I hide what I want to say, and whatever. In short, you don't check your heart, you look into the book, and what it says is you can say, and what it says you can't say, you can't. Meaning, what's important is what you put out of your mouth. What's in your heart is not discussed. That's hidden, the hidden Torah, but only focusing on the revealed. And for the common people, for the sacred still, this is acceptable and customary. However, slander in truth is not what a person expresses with his mouth, and not even what he feels in his heart towards the environment, but only towards the Creator. This is called a tongue, and it could be either good or bad. That's where we advance, since our entire goal is to reach adhesion with him, and our whole path is to improve our qualities, to be in equivalence of form with him. Then all that we do is always just compare ourselves with where I am, where is the Creator, how much I understand who he is, what he is, how much I can make this correction, this skip the gap between us, and how much I appreciate my state as effective for progress, that it kind of builds within me and around me, how much I understand his state, this whole situation, that exists, how a person feels it before he even begins to check, to scrutinize it. If this is basically called his relation to the world the Creator has shaped for him, and if God forbid he's not happy with that, then his relation to it is called slander. We know that the structure of our soul is that the soul is comprised of 2 parts, and vessels of bestow called Israel, vessels of reception called nations of the world. And the general correction is that until the end of correction, vessels of reception cannot be used, but only a cup of assent, as they incorporate with the vessels of bestow. The vessels of reception themselves are called Gentiles, and with their incorporation in the vessels of bestow they are called proselytes, and the vessels of bestow themselves are called Israel. And that's where the correction comes from. For these 2 kinds of vessels is given the correction of galar, love thy friend as thyself, because they can achieve adhesion with the Creator. Thy friend is the Creator, and the vessels of reception that cannot be corrected until the end of correction the way they are themselves. There is a correction of restriction over them, and this is called what is not good for you don't do to others, and thus restrict your evil. It's exactly the difference between Rabarker and hell, and the difference towards these in the attitude towards these 2 corrections. From here we have the commandments of you shall do in Gal, and the commandments of you shall not do, meaning that we cannot use the vessels of reception from. That's basically the beginning of the article, and afterwards he goes into very deep things. The Rush will interpret it some other time. It's also, I don't think really it's really doable to interpret this. It could ruin all education. What else? From here we understand what is the tongue of holiness, which is the tongue spoken in vessels of bestowal, Hebrew the face, and what is translation, which is still not the tongue of holiness, but the tongue which which prepares themselves to later reach the correction to be like. So is where the tongue of holiness is spoken, and in the language of translation is spoken. Therefore, the Zohar was also written in translation, which indicates that it's a book that talks about the corrections. Okay, if there's no connection between the behavior between the friends in the society and the evil tongue that he talks about in the book, because it's not. No, in our society it's something else, because in our society we want to make the same laws like the spiritual laws. The whole benefit of our society is that we in our root in the soul of Adam, where we exist on the utmost spiritual degree, that we're all connected together, all the souls, and to draw strength from their surrounding light. I can do that to the extent that I try here, not in this upper spiritual state, but in a state that I'm lower than that. I can shape the same status as though I'm there. That means that I long to be there. This is called labor. What's labor? It's the labor of resembling the higher state. So if I treat my friends as though we're already at the end of correction, I try to shape our relationship that way. That means I'm making an effort, doing labor. It's very simple. What are you looking at me? When the words become simpler, you start being afraid, right? That's why the concealment in the meantime helps the person. It guards the fruit. But this is basically the matter. The more we yearn to have this state of correction between us, the end of correction, whatever we can imagine for now, to that extent we will invite from that complete perfect state surrounding light to us, and it will treat us and correct us and truly attract us to that state of the end of correction. So in our environment we should behave according to the state of love their friend as thyself, as much as we possibly can. If I already love half the group that way, so there's nothing to do with it. Let's say I behave good with this and that one, and if you already love half the group and you're still not at the end of correction, it's a sign that you're deluding yourself. You're lying to yourself, meaning at some place, not intentionally, but at some point, you think you love the others, but you're actually evading it in some way, and you think that's love. So invest a bit more effort and labor, and you will be shown from above that you're still not in the state of the end of correction with them. You still haven't corrected your relation to them completely, which is called the end of correction. When we start to give simple interpretations, it becomes very difficult. What is the root of hatred? The root of hatred is the shattering of the screen. The screen was broken and there was no unity. Everyone only feels their own will to receive and the will to receive. That is different from the person feels as foreign, and that's the root of hatred. What does it mean? Well, there's many degrees to that. I love myself and I only care about myself because that's my necessity. Very good. That's something customary across nature, like the rubbish writes here, when the wolf catches or hunts the deer. It doesn't mean it causes evil to it. It's just nature. It has to fulfill itself. And the Creator created it in such a way that it's a correction for him and a correction for her. As much as we might look at it as horrible, but it's not horrible. It's just nature. That's it. Nature. What about how we kill animals and eat them? Now, he writes that there are some animals that cause harm to the other, not because they need it, but because they have some ancient habit that used to be necessary for life and now it isn't. So, that too, even though we don't see for what purpose he does it, but this ancient habit basically exempts them from punishment. They're not to blame, they got used to it by nature itself. So all of this is with regards to a completely beastly level. That's why they're still vegetative and animate. They have no commandments, no transgressions. There's no nothing to ask of them. How they behave, it's neither good nor bad. It's just nature. And in the human there is a relation to another. That's what he needs for his necessity. We don't ask about that. On the contrary, typically the country cares about each one having some sort of a basic quota, someone 000 shekel a month or something. I don't know, 1,000 calories a day, doesn't matter, but they do some kind of calculation to somehow being concerned. They try to. The more society is corrected, the more it has real concern. Okay, but beyond that begins a calculation of what a person needs beyond necessities, and there he should observe, he should examine that. Salam writes in the article The Last Generation that the religion that will be in the end of correction in the last generation is a kind of general religion for all nations. And what is that religion? It's not to take from society more than the last straggler. That's what he calls religion. And he says all the rest, all the people can stay in their own religion, their own habits, their own tradition. It's not a problem. So he's just talking about the attitude to do all of this beastliness. So what does it mean? Meaning you make a calculation of what's necessary according to the last straggler, meaning the one who receives less than everyone. If you receive more than him, that means you're already receiving luxuries. This is the ideal or the religion of the last generation. But for us, there's many degrees here. Like he said, if I only relate to myself, what I need for myself, or if I begin to calculate with the others, what does it mean? Like we say, there are beastly desires that animals also have. That's food, sex, home, family, home. These are necessary things in some form, meaning if a person did it only for his own body, this is called necessity. But if he's looking at others, what do others have? Meaning he's not just taking into account what his body needs, but how to be seen by others in a need of five stories house. And it's not a calculation of what I need for my body, but like the Rabash said at the time when they lived in Jerusalem, he says we had one room, there was a kind of a small table, and we ate on it just 30 cm, and everyone would just sit on the floor. That's how it used to be in Jerusalem, to the beginning of the 20th century. And there were mattresses like our mattresses here that they would put them aside in the corner, and at night, everyone would just put out the mattress and sleep on it. That's it. And he says that the parents of my bride, they were rich. They had 2 rooms, so everyone lived in the one room in the family, and they rented they put the other room for rent. Very simple, he says, because it's normal. People didn't think about it differently. Today, basically, he says they took the same room, they divided into 5 rooms, and everyone has their own private corner. So it means something, but this is necessity. Meaning a person begins to take into account what he needs to receive from society, and then for things that are even necessary things, just food for example. Go into the supermarket, look what's happening there, and look at a house, look at what people build. Meaning all of those things become not for the sake of my body, but for the sake of my neighbour. Meaning it's not necessity. It's about the attitude, the relationship to the environment. So all those things that take on the shape in relation to the environment, they are no longer considered necessities. Food, home, family, to those things become redundant things, meaning things that belong to the human desires of money, honour, power, and knowledge. Even though they basically belong to the body, but it's beyond the body. The body doesn't need all that, and they're inhuman desires. It's only your attitude to the society. There you already have your relation to society, what you want to contribute, or all the way to what you want to receive, and what you want to receive. Do you want that? Others won't have what you have or that. They'll have what you have, and everyone has it good. So accordingly, there's a spectrum from a good relation to others all the way to hatred of others, and all of the shades are there in between. When we talk about love thy friends, thyself for the evil tongue, we're talking about, as you said, what's within the heart. But here we also engage in external things. So how we behave here according to the rule, from the love of the friend to the love of the Creator, like Rabash writes in his articles, what should love friends give to us? So here in the relation to the friends, I should recognize that this is ultimately how I determine how I relate to the Creator. And even though I cannot relate to them well, and I see that, but at least if you wish to examine whether you're getting better, check whether your attitude to them has changed. If it has truly changed, fundamentally even a little bit, it means you've made a big step in spirituality. Because you can't measure spirituality, but here you can somewhat measure from your heart how you look at others. Does it sting your eyes a less? Or are you perhaps a bit concerned about them, or you have some preparation for it? That's a test, because in spirituality we don't know We also can never depict a higher spiritual degree when something suddenly appears, when you suddenly understand something. It's a revelation for you. It's an true revelation. So how could you long for that higher state in advance? So what we do usually, what we need to do, is to, well, at least as a technique to remember the last good state I had. What's good? When I had longing for the Creator, when I thought about it, when I enjoyed feeling Him, feeling connected to Him and to that state. I'm trying to hold on to it even now, when that state is no longer there, to somehow always build the same status of relationship between us. That's why you were given that example. It's like Shabbat. A simulation of the next world is given to a person. It gives him inspiration for the whole week. So the whole week he tries to live like on Shabbat. This is the meaning of that the righteous always is in Shabbat. Seemingly you're saying that it's the opposite, that from love of the Creator, of reach love of friends. Isn't it the love of friends before who says, reason logic dictates first of all I get to know the Creator, I know a lot, and then I can. From logic you say that from love of the Creator, we come to love of the created beings. Love of the Creator according to what we learn is the last degree of the development of desire, the correction of desire. The desire exists in double concealment, single concealment, reward and punishment, and love. Love divides into several parts. Eternal love being the greatest last degree of love, meaning reaching the complete end of correction. And there I have to understand how I need to relate well to my friend who's studying with me here. So why did the Creator create this entire world and set us up in a group of friends if not for that? The whole reason for this world is that it burdens the soul, that it levies burdening on the soul, so that despite the disruptions I am given, I'm trying to be at the end of correction. This is the whole matter of ascent through the degrees. I'm already at the end of correction right now. I just don't feel it because my heart is covered by 125 covers. So I have to neutralize these covers, and then I once again feel at the end of correction. How do I neutralize them? By all kinds of means at my disposal. That's it. Even the great righteous who exist at the end of correction, if they have to help us souls in this world, they receive a descent. They descend into this world. They begin the path anew. They attain the end of correction in their lives, and they write books for us. And they help, and they take care of, and teach us, but from the degree of this world, and they are already connected to the end of correction within themselves, but they're also with us here, being all of the covers that we were given, so that we don't feel the end of correction is in order to overcome these covers, these disturbances, meaning to relate to them, to use them to the extent that I get a greater disruption. It then becomes a greater illumination. And we also see this according to all of the laws of this world, the laws of electricity, how resistance works, the laws of relationship between cells, many things. The resistant resist. Resistance force is a positive force. If it's being used purposely, because by it we feel something, only by that we can get some use out of it. For example, there's electricity. If the electricity passes through a wire with no resistance, we're not going to feel anything. We place some resistance, and then by that resistance, we get through it out of the electricity. We get something, cooling or heating or other devices we can plug into it. So it's the same thing with us, and this burdening of the will to receive. Without it, we would feel no light. If there's zero coarseness, then what can be felt? To the extent that there is coarseness in an ocean of light, if there is coarseness, then according to that coarseness, we can feel the light that passes through that coarseness, if we allow it to pass. That's why the force of the screen is called a force of resistance. Like electric resistance in a resistor. That is activated. This is just like that. But this is a very profound article. We'll talk about it more. It touches on many things. Yes. On page 95 he writes about the aspects of faith and knowledge. After that he writes the Creator knows that the aspect of faith is the more effective way by which a person can reach the goal, which is called adhesion to the Creator, which is the matter of equivalence of form. Can you explain about faith and knowledge? We can't go on the path of knowledge, because the way of knowledge means receiving some kind of reward in corrected vessels already. What is knowledge? The light enters the vessel and gives the vessel a feeling. Together with this feeling, I also have a mind in which I critique this feeling and know all the circumstances by which I received this feeling, what actions I did, how corrected they are with which desires this, what degree of coarseness, how I built altogether this feeling. So, the structure of this feeling, my approach to it, how much I worked on it, how I enjoy this now, all those things give me knowledge. So to reach it in spirituality we can only through faith, meaning through the correction of delighted in mercy, desiring mercy. Faith and knowledge are 2 degrees. Faith is called the light of complete faith, which comes ready with faith with the knowledge in it is called the light of, with the illumination of, also faith and also knowing it's beyond the barrier. Faith is called the light of which I attain by the upon coarseness route 1, 2 and actually also 3 and 4, and it has to come first with the light of with a certain intensity at suitable, and the light of faith is the first correction. Everything is attained by faith. That's how everyone speaks. They don't understand what they're speaking about. So what is faith? Restriction and vessels of bestow, meaning the degree of beginner is called faith of beginner. The upper 3 of beginner is called complete faith. When we come from below upwards, the mal, which comes to the degree of beginner first, attains beginner, which is only called delight and mercy. Then when she corrects her vessels of reception inside beginner, it's considered that it also receives, and that's considered the illumination of that it receives. And don't think like the general folk in our world think that faith is called that I close my eyes, I become a fanatic person. Whatever I'm told I do without activating my mind. That's called faith. In spiritual vessels it is certainly that way. Not activating the mind means working with it, but we need the head in order to work with it. It's also a lot of sophistication and a lot of exertion. It's not erasing the desires, it's knowing them and upon them building a relationship in which I go above them. That's called faith above reason. There's no such thing as faith just like that, because we are vessels of reception. Even in coarseness route 1, 2, 3, even if we're in coarseness route level and we're in vessels of reception, then everything I do actually rides upon the desire to receive. I don't have a desire to bestow in me. The desire to bestow is the creator in me. The desire to receive that can be corrected in the form of or for the sake of bestow. Hence, if I even do the work in coarseness route level, it's upon the desire to receive of coarse root. It's already different from the pure bestow of the creator. And if I come to the work in bestowing altogether, only just in bestowing I work above this desire to receive, and also there's reason it's coarseness even of root coarseness, and I work above that and I neutralize myself, and that's called like our embryo, the coarseness of root, where I correct myself, being calling a newborn an embryo. I enal myself completely enal. What do I know that I'm giving up? I cancel everything I enal, and I'm in him. It's like in complete control over the creator. It's like an embryo in a mother's womb, giving one's soul completely to the upper one. This is above reason as much as reason we have, and above that. And in every degree you have a degree called embryo, meaning that in all 125 degrees, in each degree more and more than the previous one, you have more courses that you have to give up on and give one's soul. To be in an embryo on the degree of, let's say 100, is a lot more than being great in the degree of 99. Yes, how can a person check that he didn't change his goal to his means? Meaning that we say love of friends is the means to reach the creator. So how can I check that I didn't swap out the goal to a means? Because love of friends is the way I check things. It's not important. Even when a person forgets and does it, he does the love of friends in order to come closer to the creator. But nevertheless, the general thought, the general thinking here takes on a certain, let's say, message on your cell phone from Jared or something else. You're reminded of it from time to time altogether. The general thought is there, aimed at the goal. Even if we just scream to the goal, at our degree, it works that way. So certainly, look, this is a result of the concealment. Of course, each time we have to be aided by one another, and whoever remembers needs to tell everyone. But altogether, you can't remember about spirituality if spirituality doesn't illuminate for you. That's the bottom line. You can write it down on all your walls. You won't see what's written. If your desire to receive is not aimed to it now, you won't see. That's how we're made. How do I not see spirituality? My desire to receive now. Can't feel it. It's not aimed to it. It's the same in relation to every feeling or anything. So what society in such a state, even in a state in which I don't remember the purpose of cremation, if I perform all these actions, they later join into thoughts and intentions that I will do at a time, another time. That's why we are in this world, which is such a degree in which there's the reality of time. What's the thing in spirituality? The moment you do it, if you're in a teaching at that moment and you operate accordingly, then it's an action. If you're not in a teaching at that moment, first of all, it's not called spirituality. But let's say then, it wouldn't be called an action. In us, it's not like that. Every labour we do can be added and connected to every thought and operate together. That's their wonder, the special wonder in this lower degree called this world. He also says this in the article in the speech to for the completion of the Tsar, where he tells to his Rav that he's not adhered to his Rav permanently, but now he brought him a cup of tea, and later he thought that by that he wanted to connect to spirituality, and not during the time of their action. Nevertheless, these two things were together, as if that was the reason why he brought the cup of tea. Understand, meaning time acts for our benefit. It connects all the labours that we cannot connect. And he writes there about it. That's why he says even in the big things towards the upper one or towards the Rav, as he explains there, it operates in such a way that by this we ascend. We ascend the degrees. I remember myself how many moments and what moments that I don't want and don't feel like it, and I'm fed up, and wow. You don't know this because you're not close to Rav, let's say. Yes, and there's no Rav here. I don't exactly behave like a RV, but when you're next to a great man, and he is really close and constant, then it's very difficult to sustain oneself correctly. It's very difficult. Certain disregard starts because it's natural. You see a body, what? Is there in a body internality? We don't see it's hard. So he says that even when we do it due to necessity, where I must do it, it's not pleasant, it's not nice, just like for human reasons, you connect it to it later spiritual reasons for which he wants to come to spirituality, and even later when you're not next to him, it's easier for you to think about it, and then they connect together this thought and action. That's how it is with a friend. That's how we are too. The painting is due. The thought somehow will come when it is what the clothes. Okay, yes, you said that the time is on our side. So maybe I do some action towards a friend, and at that moment the connection won't be good. But a few minutes I can do the same thing and it will be good. So what determines that? You will never know why you do it this way or another way. See, he brought me a cup of tea. Don't forget the yes. We don't know why we're thrown from thought to thought, from state to state. We don't know because it's dependent on the inner structure of the soul. Now you need to scrutinize this desire later, that this, and according to this that, according to that why, in accordance to this and that, because you don't know with what souls and what things you're connected in the structure of. You don't know yourself. You don't know yourself, also the souls that you're with, and in what connection that you don't know, and according to the bodies you can't accordingly know what's going on inside. So you're brought all kinds of incidents that appear to you sins as cases or incidents, and if you could see the whole structure of from it, you would know, now I will need to do this, soon they'll give me this, and sometime that you don't. He keeps changing, I keep changing. Everyone's changing, we're all changing. In all kinds of corrections, it's like a certain system that is constant lie in this livelihood. It's called the Holy Sheener. So why can something be right at some point, and then it can be right? Can you give me an example for a good action to do? That's why they give us simple advice, that in every single state that you're in, don't make the calculations with the rest of the souls. It's what I need to do in your body that's now thinking. Now how do all the cells in the body operate now, each according to its planning, each according to its functioning, and I accordingly need to also operate this way, and you know it really operates in such a way. Eventually, but not on a degree that we can know it. Of course it works that way. It's a closed system in all of its parts all the way to the end, but we're not capable of digesting it at all. It's later revealed to us in the final correction with all the structure and the functioning that is included in it without any disturbances. So you're given not a means, but a most general advice which is most correct and simple. You and your action and your goal and where you want to go to, they have to be a swam. I came down from the sh from the root where I was adhered to the with the Creator. Who's the Creator? Creator is all the rest of the souls, which I'm included with, and together we receive within us the upper light. That feeling in me is called greater. I don't know what's outside of me, outside of him, outside of me is his essence, but what I receive in the connection to all the rest of the souls, in a corrected state, in the final correction, in my root, that's called the Creator. From your actions, we know you. From my feeling, I get to know him. So this is something I should yearn for now, that by my current action that I'm doing, I yearn for him. I do it this if I constantly kind of stimulate that point and pressure that point, I come to a state where it's truly the state. That's truly it. To give you now this big program, this big software, and for you to be able to start doing something right now, you need to bring it, to understand it from one end to the other, to be able to perform this more list action in understanding, knowledge and complete control. You need to know the whole system in advance. How are you capable to adhere to all the souls, with all the parts of the system in one structure? It's impossible. That is why you're told a solution. If you want to be incorporate yourself inside the system as a good active part, this you will have to aim my action and my state of adhesion with the Creator as one where I already now want to be in the final correction. What's the final correction? The way I depict it to myself. That's the state that I want to now realize or manufacture, create. Great. So this law is about all souls without connection to the group. This law operates upon all the souls, without any connection to the group, but with your group, as we spoke from there. You invite from the final correction surrounding light, because you're connected with them the way you're connected to them, they're according to the effort that you want to connect with them here. You're inviting, it's like you're drawing upon yourself. You're truly drawing kind of physically that state to you, because you want to observe it here now. This is considered that the upper world descends to this world, and this will actually happen in the final correction. There are beautiful words here, but I don't think that I'm adding something here. Yes, well, can I ask a question? Yes, why are there actions that come against the final correction that we're trying to do now, like love of friends or looking at the positive like balsam, right? But we can't do anything like that now. Why do we engage in the action of love of friends and think that it's the most important action? Well, besides that there's dissemination and study, yes, and actions like being sufficed with little and all. These other corrections we leave because we know that we on our own cannot correct ourselves, and what can correct us is the upper light. If it will come upon me from a more corrected state and shines for me, accordingly it will correct my vessels. So I need to perform actions not in which I myself have to go to the vessels and correct them with some I don't know, special tool or plier or vice grip or something that I open and close and correct something. Rather I need to care for this handyman that will come and fix this and correct is. That's why I don't do correction actions directly, like where's the screen I'm bringing it. I put it on my desires to receive. Put a few nails in there so it doesn't run away below desire to receive above the screen like we draw it, and then the desire to receive already is covered with a screen. Rather I seek the means that will bring me this screen that will bring me correction. This means is not precisely the approach for the correction itself. It's an approach to the corrector. And this is truly a big obstacle for people until they start to understand that we need to seek the one who corrects, not the correct themselves. Without him coming, I will simply not have correction. This is like a woman who sits at home and screams that her, let's say, her washing machine broke. So, and you say, all right, I'll Do something now. You enter, let's say, some professional needs to come in with some part and put it on there and fix it. So we need to look for this person, the person who knows how to do that. That's the upper light. So I perform actions where I don't look at the vessel itself. I need to look at the actions through which I can draw lights that are most beneficial for correction. And then we are told that the surrounding light that is most beneficial for correction comes while I'm with the book during the study with the intention to reach my route to there where I and my action and my studier and the creator are in a teaching in 1 point. Wonderful. I was told so after that time. Sorry before that. So what do I need to sit correctly? Meaning with the right intention I have. A book, thank God I studied how to read. Hebrew even I didn't learn it, it's not important. But main thing, he says, is the intention. How do I reach the intention? And here too it's explained how many means we have to build the right intention, where first of all it's in the article, the freedom. He writes it's the society. Without the society, you won't be able to collect or intensify your desire for the goal, and your intention will be small, less than what is needed in order to draw the light, the surrounding light. That's it. And if you don't look at that, but rather you look at, oh, I'm not all right, I'm too stingy, and I'm lustful, and I'm ambitious, and I'm this, and I have badness in me. So you're inside there. Bad will desires to receive. It's true that they're not good, but where from the person's thoughts are is where he is. He doesn't know what to do. He maybe should get drunk or take drugs because he doesn't want to feel this pain. His thing is like he's not doing anything. It's like a fool who sits, folds his arms over, and devours his own flesh. This is a fool because it's fullness. If you're not turning to the right direction, but you're looking at your own hole, and that you're not good, but by you looking and seeing that it's not good, and then you'll be able to correct, you won't correct it. You see it's like a broken part on the car that it won't help. You need to seek the professional that will bring you the part and know how to install it. And this is the thing that we many times are looking into the vessels, and you see that we're looking at them, and you see the poor guy, his internality are before his eyes, and he doesn't know how to disconnect from it, and he truly sits there and is in sorrow. The society here needs to be concerned and to bestow upon each and everyone to exit this as fast as possible, because from this you have the slander of the spies upon the Creator and all kinds. If we start to do these things, that's not good. Well, let's read something. Let's study. Let's share our impressions from the lesson and what from it we can take to implement in the 10. True exertion is to the upper state, and this can be done only through the relationship to the friends. So I heard. We have to check whether the relations have changed a meaningfully, and if it happened even a little, that means that you made a very big step forward in spirituality. We can't measure this. It was also about faith. All kinds of things that faith is, to reveal the light of not to go against desires, but rather attain them and go above them in faith, above reason. That's it. I can't remember whether spirituality doesn't flow. If it doesn't shine, then I don't remember it. So we must awaken it between us always and the creators, the rest of the souls around you. It always comes back to the point of the friend spirit towards a goal. That is always the point we have to press on and exert towards. It's the mood, the spirit of the friends, the success of the friends. The summary of the lesson, it focuses us on the matter of love of friends, of love of others. And without this, a person is not directed to the goal. And this is the main thing we need to focus on. Because the hatred of others brings to the hatred of the Creator. It is actually all towards the Creator. Because if a person sees bad in friends, he sees bad in the actions of the Creator. And all that we need to do is to not agree with this phenomena and be inclined towards love always. That's what our whole path is built upon. This is the main component. And also I wrote here how you look at others. If the eye stabbed and you look at friends in a bad way, then what can help is to care for them. If a person cares for the friends, he goes in the right direction nevertheless, and with the same will to receive that awakens in him, and the relation towards their friends I have to understand that by that I determine how I relate to the Creator. I really need to organize my relation as much as possible with love towards the friends. To organize my intention, I have to ask the Creator to help us, and this way we can come closer and closer to Him. All our work in the society is building a relationship with the Creator. We can check if we have love with the Creator. What is this? It's if I have love for the friends, then probably the Creator loved me and gave me something else in my heart a little more to love the friends. If I'm talking about the friends like he writes there in the article, what am I saying about the friends? What do I want to live in the hearts of the friends in relation to the other friends? All those things, and how what I'm doing and saying about the importance of the friends gives me an opening to ask the Creator for a little bit more correction change, a little bit more of my attitude in my heart towards friends. So thoughts and actions and relationship with the friends will make us love each other more. We need to always ask the Creator for that. It turns out that there's a very tight connection between this environment that the Creator has brought me to the light that I have to draw, and I can do one without the other. Both these means are really connected, and my relation to society is very connected to the way I have the ability to draw the light that reforms, and on the other hand, until the light doesn't correct my corrupted qualities, I won't be able to relate to the friends correctly. And these two things, we should always hold them together with the goal. We need to hold them, and in the end all the studies are only in order to draw the light and what the Kabbalist implanted into these sources, force that can really save us. This is how we have to relate to it. It's hard to speak after these words, because there's nothing to add. The lesson was so clear on the topic of the heart, and let's go to the next part and sing a song first. Got a friend in Santiago, got a friend in Berlin, got a friend 100 miles away who's as close as my hand. Distance couldn't keep us apart because we're one man with one heart. One man's a hero, one's in finance, one's in design, one does all that he can. Differences won't keep us apart because we're one man with one heart. A person who advances for him. Everything is new, nothing is external. It's all inside of you. Don't despair from being so far. Man is always where his thoughts are. Of all things, there's only one he can change. Everything else happens anyway. No mountain of hatred can keep us apart, because we're one man with one heart. Hello friends, we're starting with the study of Volume 1 Part 1, Inner Light Item 1. I wanted to share with you a little bit. Yesterday in the gathering of friends, we talked amongst us between the friends how to improve and make the most of the morning lesson, where we have a lot more to improve in drawing the reforming light, and not be diverted. I was reminded that Rob said that if you're diverted, if you're not paying attention during the lesson, it's because your desire is not strong enough. So let's prepare our desire towards drawing the reforming light. To drink Rav's lesson, all the power to drink their questions of the friends, and Rob said in the lesson, I need to look at actions by which I can draw lights that are most beneficial for correction, and then we are told that the surrounding light that is most beneficial for correction comes when I'm with the book during the study, with the intention to reach my root. They were there where I am in my action, in the study, and the Creator are in a teaching in one point, and as we just heard in the lesson just now, that if we have a broken washing machine, we need an expert. If we have a car that needs something to change, we need someone who knows about it, and we have the light that can correct us now during our studies. Let's go into a lesson, please. Item 2. What does he want to scrutinize? So let's read test above. Before the restriction, light filled all of reality. The light of filled all of reality. That's the first state, and what he wants to scrutinize. Item 1 above we have the words of the below in inner light. We have the explanation of Where do we have the words of the below? On the star below he writes the tree of life, branch 2. So item 1, know that before the emanated being were emanated and the created being were created, and upper simple light had filled all of reality. So now he's going to scrutinize little Item 2 and little item 1 in the line. We were already, you read it now, and now. Item 2 is the simple upper light. What is item 2 below upper simple light? It refers to the light that expands from the Creator himself. What's this? Yes, know that all the names and appellations that appear in the wisdom of Kabul are not at all in the Creator himself, but only in the light that expands from himself. However, we cannot utter even a single word regarding his self, for the rule is that anything that we do not attain, we do not know by name. Remember that, and you will not fail, meaning, when we speak about the upper light, we're only talking about the light which expands from the Creator, from the emanator. More correctly, we don't talk about the emanator at all. We don't have any name for him because we don't attain him, because all our names come from attainment from the entrance of the light into the vessel, and we don't attain the emanator. He is before the light. He is before the light. It's from him that the light comes out. Hence we all of us who receive the light that comes from the emanator, so in that light that comes to us, we grasp all the actions of the light, meaning all that we have is the action of the light, where the light builds the clay and the light fills the clay in correcting it, in arranging it in ways that the clay will feel. Meaning, first of all, we need to discern at we are the vessels, we are the results of the actions of the light only. That the light made of us something that feels and understands, feeling in mind and heart, so that by this we will perceive him, perceive his actions, and thus feel ourselves, meaning who we are eventually consequences of the actions of the light, and what we feel, what he wants us to feel is how he builds us, and above this, we will never understand, and we will never feel, never meaning until the final correction is for us the end of the path. What's above that we're not speaking. So what is the light that we're seeing? The bestow of the Creator. Yes, our viewers from the internet are asking to read definition 11. The Creator, Creator. The name Creator is speaking about the innovation, which is only the matter, defined as the will to receive in every essence. That necessarily it wasn't in his essence before creation. Meaning how to speak about the Creator already from that innovation. That was done when the light came out of his essence in a different place. Barrism explains that the Creator is, from the words come and see, that a person who starts attaining spirituality, according to the correction of his vessels as much as he corrects them, then he can be equivalent to the light. That in us there are two discernments. Main discernments are a deficiency and a fulfillment. For that deficiency, to the extent that the deficiency and the fulfillment are equal between them, the equivalence between them brings the feeling of the Creator to a person. Why? Because he, the Creator, is what creates the light and the vessel. And if I inside equalize between the light and vessel, so I can reach in that equivalence of form to the feeling of the only root that is one for both of them, called Creator. And that's why the Creator always changes for me, because from the vessel and its fulfillment I can unite by correcting the vessel to bestow, that it'll be like a fulfillment that will be revealed in him as a bestowing. By that I discover that term called Creator more and more, until in correcting my vessel completely I reach the full term of the Creator, who is my Creator that created all of my deficiencies and gave me all the fulfillment in him, to that one root, to that one deficiency and the fulfillment. That's why the Creator is a personal feeling for each and everyone into his own vessels. My Creator and your Creator will never be the same, and in every state, in every degree, the Creator will be different, and every time he will grow, to the extent that we rise in our vessels, meaning everything we learn about in the wisdom of Kabbalah, we only learn towards our perception. A judge only has what his eyes can see. That's why the name of the Creator is come and see. That is a term that only comes from within the vessel. That's why he says that in that definition, the name Creator relates solely to the innovation, and the rest you can put in brackets, meaning the making of the existence. That's all brackets till the end. The main thing is about the innovation, that we aren't speaking about him in an absolute term. We never speak about something absolute in Kabbalah, because everything is from the vessels attaining That's how we can speak about it. And also in science, like we were saying, also in modern science, we advance towards that same perception of reality, that the reality is all towards the person who attains it. And also here in item 2 he says that everything we don't attain we will not know by name. That's why the Creator, we have the merciful, the great, the truth, that there's so many. They say that the whole Torah are his holy names, the names of the light that enters a vessel and builds that vessel and scrutinizes it and fills it. That's the entire Torah, meaning the whole Torah are instances, situations of lights and vessels that have all kinds of connections between them. How the vessel can from the smallest extent equalize to the light, and according to that the smallest holy name is revealed. That means that the vessel is in bestow light. The light, bestow, is called holy, and then it's revealed. That's why the whole Torah, the book of the Torah, let's say, all the light that comes and builds the vessel, it's all the holy names. Number 3, he says, so we had the simple light filled all of reality. So number 3, an inner light. What does it mean filled all of reality? This is seemingly perplexing, for it speaks of the time before the worlds were created. Thus, what reality is there here that the upper light should fill? The filling the thing is that all the worlds and all the souls that exist and that are destined to be created, with all that will befall them until the end of their correction, meaning everything except for mutual his essence, that we can't speak about it only is a root that comes before everything. They are all included, that the whole reality that comes out of it that is revealed from that they are all included in their glory and their full measure, in a way that we should discern 2 rudiments in the reality before us. The first rudiment, they are fixed and exist in their full completeness and glory, meaning in potential, in force, before they develop that in theirs everything. The second rudiment, how they are arranged and cascade, meaning by allotment, and are innervated before us after the first restriction in the 5 worlds, called the light that extended from filled entire reality from the first rudiment relating to their existence in before the restriction, meaning we have 2 forms. The first form is that everything is included in all the vessels, all the lights with all the details until the last final detail, but without their development, without the cascading. And the second rudiment, that they already start cascading down and come below and again above below. That comes out the matter of time. These are all things that we need to try and interpret in a spiritual manner, that it didn't happen once and now it's not happening, that it won't ever happen in the future. When we reach the end of correction to a sof, and now it doesn't exist, but everything is towards the person attaining only the way he attains. That's how he interprets it, and reality itself. That's what we can't speak about. Reality itself, reality itself, self is, and what the created being attains, he always attains according to his own vessels, and he can't see past, present, future, but only towards himself, towards his attainment, and not towards the forms that he attains. Because the worlds don't exist, there is no cascading, there's no motion, there's nothing, only towards the one attaining. So what Kabbalists tell us about is, they tell us according to what they attain, according to that spiritual motion that is depicted in them, and not what exists in spirituality outside of us, that about that we can speak. That's called his essence. If we talk about and our attainments, it's all towards the one attaining, towards the vessels. Yes, is asking, is there a point of equalization between people towards the Creator? I don't know how it's connected to what we're reading here, but let's say, certainly in relation to the Creator, we're all equal, because in the upper light, as we learned here, there's no change, there's no difference. Everything is an equivalence and an absolute rest. So what appears to us that is not equal is altogether out of us perceiving it in such a way in our vessels, but to the extent in which a person returns to higher degrees in his perception, meaning in his correction, he sees how everyone is equal. Yes, that same student is asking in the end of correction, when a person reaches the end of correction, so what happens with the definition of the Creator? Does it change, or do they see the same thing? The definition of the Creator changes every moment in an attaining person's existence, meaning his perception is changed. What does it mean that holy names? What are all these names altogether? What now? What now is happening to me at every given moment? I now every moment what I feel, the Creator. The fact that it seems to me that I'm attaining souls or people or this world, or the spiritual world, it seems to me. Besides the Kli that attains the light, that fills it. There's nothing has changed from end to this world, only towards the attainer it changes. So also now I'm in that state of ends. What do I attain from it according to the form of my vessel, according to my correction and equivalence with the light after the first restriction? The light can be attained only to the extent of their equivalence with it. If I don't change in relation to it, I feel in the complete inability to be in equivalence, which is called this world. If I start to equalize myself somewhat to the upper light, it's called the world, then, etc. Until but nevertheless my perception, my feeling, my world, is the light that is in my vessel, and there's no more than that whatsoever. This feeling is it spreads and divided into many thousands of details, but it's all appearing to me in my vessel that I'm in a world filled with people and all kinds of. We learned this in the perception of reality, that there is nothing besides this form, and what we learn in the wisdom of Kabbalah is the wisdom of perception, how we well perceive reality correctly, not in a false manner, in equivalence of form with the light. We will discover the extent in which we are in our true form. Well, where are we? Also, we finished item 3. Okay, very well. What's item 4? Do we still have time? Item 4, place. No V. There is no vacant place in all of this reality, in the manner of empty air and space. A vacant place. What is a vacant place? Item 4 below interprets it. It means that before the worlds were created, when there was no vacant place, meaning what's vacant? A place of deficiency that would be suitable to undergo corrections, since the upper light had filled that place, leaving no room for the lower ones to distinguish themselves and to add anything to his completeness. Rather, because of the restriction that was made, as it is written below, a new deficiency emerged and a vacant place for the correction was made. However, do not be mistaken to think that the book speaks of a corporeal place. That is, there was no vacant place in. Everything was perfect. Everything came on behalf of the light and filled everything. Then the restriction took place on behalf of the Kli that expelled the light in order to add the possibility from itself to grow, to express something to equalize the light. And then a vegan place for correction was made on behalf of the created beings. That's what happens. Meaning it's not that the light departed, it's not that the wholeness disappeared from ends, but rather towards the created being who wants to add to it. So towards his feeling, what was a moment before the restriction, where he felt that he was in the world of Ansal, he decided in the restriction and the reason for the restriction that he wants to add to this state and to reach through equivalence of form on his behalf. Then the restriction takes place where he starts to feel that state where the light creates him and fills him and gives him all that wholeness, and he tills darkness through this, and then he defines the light as a light that will come to him in equivalence of form, and then a place for the corrections was made, which is all a veins of became now an empty place towards the created being who wants to fill it in relations to himself. This we will continue next lesson. For now we'll conclude. Yes, friends, so this is a time for questions, scrutinies. Let's go a bit deeper into things. We saw how focused on these 3 little items that came out of the item number 1 of the words. He scrutinized the terms for us explained by, went deep in, and we see how love has this persistency to explain the perception of reality that, according to it, we should perceive all the materials we're studying in order to reach the place that tells us about. So key of 1. Thank you, friends. Question: if the creator is different each time, for me, in every moment in time, and it depends on my personal attainment. For a friend, he's also different because the friend is in a state that is different now. So what does it mean to reach adhesion with the friends based on what, when this is different for each of us at every given moment? What does it mean to reach adhesion with the friends if each one is different? Oh, if the Creator is different for everyone. Yes, each one has different desires. Each one perceives reality in a different way, perceive the Creator in a different way. And here, we connect. And our intentions, by wanting to bestow contentment to the Creator through our connection. The connection between us is a means to reach the Creator. And here our relation that we have to create reflected light towards one another. Each one has to restrict themselves and do all the work that we are learning about. There's no matter of connecting the desires. Each one stays in their desire, the way they perceive reality in the root of their soul. But we build a common area between us where the Creator can be revealed. Hello friends, I didn't understand what are we restricting, or who's restricting is the light restricting or the vessel restricting. An item in little item 4 relates to an empty space. Yes, so what restricts is that the question. What is restricted? The light or the vessel? So he tells us. Here what is a light item for? No, vacant place, with the matter of empty air. So we never talk about the light itself. We are always talking about the light on behalf of the vessel. So let's go to the definition of words and see what place is and what is vacant, and then we'll understand. So we're going now to where the definitions towards. Hope we can find it also in the study material. Yes, in all the languages. Place it's 35. The place is the desire to receive, and then the emanator is the place. Emanated is the place for all the correction and abundance in it. So, what's placed the desire to receive in? The innated is the place for all the abundance and light in it. Meaning we never talk on behalf of the light. We're talking from the side of the vessel and how it feels. The light, the vessel is on the side of the desire. Light is the kind of pleasure that's filled with that desire. So we say the desire to receive in the emanated is the place for all the light and abundance in it. Now let's go to the definition of what vacant is. 44. What is the definition of what is void? It is the place that is ready to receive corrections and wholeness. Rab also described it in his words. He said the place is the place for corrections. That's what he said earlier. A vacant place is the place is vacant and is ready to receive corrections and wholeness, meaning always in the perception of reality. The created being always receives everything in his reality, as this is the desire and what can be done with the desire, and this is how the light is felt. We can never say about the light anything, because the light is existence from existence, and the vessel is existence from absence. The desire always comes from existence from absence. It's always renewed. Also in the first part of the lesson, whoever remembers, he talks about we're until they're in the correction. We only have 125 corrections covers, upon which we under which we are, and we need to discover them. But on behalf of the light, we're already corrected. All the work is in acquiring the vessels and renewing them each time. This is called that we have a new creator each time. Rob talked about this also from the side of the Klee. The Klee changes and it grasped the light each time in a different measure, a different way. Who makes the changes in it? The light. What does the Klee grasp the light? But the light itself. You can't say anything, only on how the vessel perceives it. That's the perception of reality. Mach 12. Hello. From what Rav explained, the appearance of coarseness and deficiency. Is it the same process? Is the appearance of the coarseness and deficiencies of the same process? We learned that in 4 phases of direct, like there's already coarseness, and the desire in the 4 phases of direct light. The light creates a desire and fills it, and the deficiency is built from the departure of the light, not from the 4 phases, but from the light departing, and now a vacant place is created. What we read in definition 44, that is a place that can receive corrections and wholeness. Jailer, do you want to add anything? Yes, we always speak about coarseness when there's a screen already, so the root for coarseness is in the 4 phases of direct light, but always when we talk about the qualities of the screen, meaning how the created being. What is the screen? It's how the created being responds to the creator, to the light that comes to him. So you can always talk about 2 qualities of hardness, which is the rejection force in The screen and the coarseness is what is revealed, that measure of desire that's revealed, upon which the created being makes the calculation how much of it he can receive and how much of it he cannot. That's called the coarseness. Coarseness are already qualities of the screen with which we can respond to the light. And this is actually the new vessel after the restriction. Before the restriction, the vessel is the desire. And after the restriction, it's the scream, the response of the created being to the creator out of rejection. First of all, the hardness, and from the hardness it is scrutinized into how much desire to receive can be aided or used in order to implement the purpose of Krishna, meaning to receive in order to bestow, and there we already use the concept's coarseness. PT 33. What do you think? Should we connect this to what we learned in the preface about the way the vessels come out? Should we find what's said now in the process we learned in the preface? We learned many things in the and now. We're trying to just be tight with Rav's words, and now what we're learning today, not other things from, because we can be smart there, and here we want to receive the light. And light we receive from being adjacent to Bharam, to his definitions, and what Ra explains to us, that's our source for the light. The creative being starts to feel this situation, that the create light feels it, and corrects it, gives it all its wholeness, and then feels darkness. And then he defines the light as a light that will come to him in equivalence of form, and then a place for the corrections is made. These corrections is something that we feel now. Can I feel it now? The Creator gave us a place to work by restricting, and a vacant place was created. So he gave us a place that we can work, and we'll have reward for our work to the extent that we yearn to connect between us and discover our intention to receive. So to the extent that we see it as something bad, that this is what separates us from the Creator, that this prevents us from receiving the good, so we can draw the light that reforms, which performs these corrections. It's not something we can do on our own. So what was your question about the corrections, whether these are corrections that you can feel now, the actual spiritual corrections? To the extent that the work light works on us and corrects our intention, we can feel the corrections that I feel, that I see. It's on the level of psychology of simple human. I don't see corrections. I see amazing things, wonderful things, but it's not what we're hearing that spirituality is, and that it's truly some other world. Transformation called it once, was speaking in the first part of the lesson about the relation and love towards the friends, that through that you can measure your advancement. He didn't call it something psychological, but something you can really measure how your relation towards the friends changed. I think there's a way to check if I love part of their friends, or if you reach half the friends you didn't reach Multicon, the end of correction. He didn't think of something in the upper worlds, but actually what we have here in the relationships in our group. So that's the most precise measurement. You can't really lie to yourself that you love someone if you hate them. Woman, hello, it's a bit not clear, if you could explain. In item 3, when the 5 worlds came out after the first restriction, I thought that part of the worlds came out after the first restriction, and some after the second restriction. So I think I'm confused, and it'll be great if you can explain that. Yes, after the first restriction doesn't mean that there isn't a second restriction after the first restriction. All the worlds, all the concealment emerged at the first restriction. What's the purpose of the restriction? Of restriction is for there to be a created being. For there to be a created being, there needs to be the first restriction, which creates a state in which we need to work with a new vessel called the screen and reflected light. And the second restriction is an expansion of the first restriction, another limitation. Instead of us working with all 10, we can work with that first restriction, but only with part of their called. But the world of Ak emerged immediately after the first restriction, all 5 parts of it, and then in order the world of Nicodemic and Gadlut shattered, and then in order to correct the world of Nicodem that shattered, the world of emerged. And where is the second restriction? The second restriction is before the world, the birth of the world of when the sack emerged downwards below the table, and the second restriction was made so still. What Rav explained, it's correct it all. came after the first restriction. Okay, did order come into your things? Women's spin. Thank you, friends. Is the force of the created being to put the screen and the restriction come 100% on behalf of the created being. All the forces come from the creator. The creator himself doesn't have the created being himself doesn't have forces. There's a definition for restriction. In 46, what is restriction? One who conquers one's desire. In other words, one who restrains oneself and does not receive despite one's great desire to receive is regarded as restricting oneself. Where does he get that force if not from the light? The light itself gives him the forces to do it. It's not that the desire has forces and can work without the force on behalf of the light. How does the vessel know what to correct before he was corrected? How does it scrutinize what to correct before it's corrected? That's also an action that happens by the light. We spoke about corrections, or was asking about that. What are corrections? Corrections come after it's clear what you need to correct. If a person lives in the world and everything's fine and great, so it doesn't need corrections. So what does the light do? We also heard about that in the first part of the lesson today. The light first of all scrutinizes what we need to correct. And if it's clear to a person that only his relation to reality is what he needs to correct, from an egoistic relation to an altruistic relation, that from concern about oneself he goes to concern about the friends, and from concern about the friends to concern about the creator. If that's clear that, well, that's what a person's lacking, that scrutiny happens by the light. A person can reach such a thing on his own. A person also can only reach it with the help of society. We see that no society in the world doesn't create a state that a person reaches such a conclusion. But the light works on us when we are in a society that wants the light to work on us. That's all the actions of the light. That's called a recognition of evil. And after the recognition of evil, the light that corrects, that scrutinizes and shows us what needs to be corrected, is also what corrects. That's why that's called the Torah. The Torah is the light that also scrutinizes what we need to correct and also corrects. What is the correction? The inversion of the relation of the created being from a reality where he feels only himself to the true reality to awaken. From the dream to come out of the illusion to connect to this reality that the Kabbalists are talking about. Then from this reality, you can already read the book, hear everything already from a completely different angle. The place where the Kabbalists are. Okay, Latin 1. So how does this light operate? How does it operate? We always say that it's an operation of the light. We say that the light does its work, that it's something on behalf of the light. But how? How does it work? I don't understand. You don't need to understand. That's the beauty about this. You don't have to understand how the light works. You just have to work in the 10 and do what the Cobras tell us. Then you discover on yourself the way the light worked. We'll never understand how the light works. You don't have to understand. You just have to do. Thank you. I wanted to ask about the headline. Before the restriction filled all of reality. How can it be that before the restriction the light filled all of reality? How can such a state be? What happens in that state is that the light is with the desire. It's a state that's hard for us to understand. There's a whole explanation in our observation about it. But when the light emerges, it emerges. The light creates the desire which talked about earlier in existence from absence, and the light comes from as existence in existence, and they come out intertwined in one another. The light with the desire emerge, and there's no free space. There's no empty space. All those things that he's saying here, that they're all together as one, the desire and the light without any change between them. If I could elaborate, he writes in Inner Light Item 2, he says that everything we don't attain, we will not know by name. Remember that, and you will not feel. So how can a course determine that something exists before he restricted himself? Maybe I just didn't understand the explanation. Reached that degree. He's telling us what he attained. He reached to the degree that he's talking about. They also reached that, and they're passing along to us their attainment. Maybe that's why I said earlier in the clip we saw that he emphasized that the innovation is the most important. That this is what you attain when you have the light and the vessel, and only when you attain it together. Well, I don't know how to express it in words, but when there's equivalence between the light and the vessel, it's the degree that each attain ends. So in the stage, the light fills the vessel completely. In soft means that the vessel is filled all the way to the end. Always gives the example that one cup that's filled to the end. It's called in the wisdom of so. There's no place that is not filled with light, and that's what attains wherein him both the desire and the light are one, which is called him, and his name are one. Both the light and the vessel become one in complete wholeness.